Hello everyone and welcome back to City Skylines 2, where we are currently building the sort of realistic North American themed metropolitan area of Riverview. So we've got a major city here called Riverview, and we've got a creatively named city called East Riverview here across the river. In the previous episode, we pushed the population to surpass 40,000, and we mainly did that with a two-step approach. We built some low-density housing, some suburban developments here on the eastern side of the interstate, right next to East Riverview, up here as well. But we also densified some of the existing areas by introducing more medium density and low-rent housing to some of our older neighborhoods of the city, such as Victoria Peak, Bedford Gardens and Palmer Glade. And of course, last but certainly not least, we turned Love Island from an uninhabited forest island into a recreational space featuring a massive Ferris wheel with cool views of downtown Riverview as well as East Riverview, plazas and parks, as well as Riverview Botanical Gardens, and an old destroyed Civil War fort here on the southern tip of the island. And as always, you guys are annoyingly correct in your comments, and we're quick to point out that I named this Love Island because it was shaped like a heart, but after my terraforming, it's not much of a heart anymore, so I'm just gonna fix that for you. Just give me 2 seconds. And there you go, it's a heart again. It's not gonna get any better than this, because if I narrow this straight here, this river, we're gonna have some serious flooding, because as you guys might remember, the current's actually quite strong, so this will have to do. And anyways, I'm gonna implement some pretty major changes in this episode, which I hope aren't gonna be too controversial, but I'm sure you guys will let me know if they are, because I'm going to open a sort of third frontier by establishing a third highway outside connection to the east of the region by dragging a big highway all the way from out here down this valley, and then sort of trying to integrate it with the existing infrastructure here in Riverview. So this is gonna require some pretty massive changes, as we're gonna plow a highway through this northeastern corridor, probably connect it up here, and probably also revamp the complex infrastructure we got right here leading into downtown. Before we start wrecking up the city though, I have to remind you that if you enjoy my content, hitting the like button is really gonna help out. And if you want to ensure that you don't miss out on future content, consider subscribing. Most of my viewers aren't subscribed, so maybe you just forgotten to. Thanks in advance. Alright, so I'm kind of nervous actually. If there's something that can really change the feel and makeup of a city, it's introducing major new infrastructure projects, especially if they require that you revamp some of the existing infrastructure. And that is definitely going to be a necessity with what we've planned for today. The first thing I'll obviously need to do is I'll need to buy a ton of tiles, because I can only establish an outside connection if I have access to one of the outermost tiles. We already have 2 outside connections here in Riverview. We've got one highway connection here in the very northern end of the metro area. And as we move all the way south, we've got the same deal going on down here. And this is pretty much the same interstate that cuts through the entire region. We don't have a connection by highway to the west, but we do have a rail, is that how you say it? Railway connection. There you go, to the west, and we've got no connections to the east. So that's what I want to change around. And I was contemplating going this way, but the mountains here the issue is that I can terraform these mountains, but I can't terraform on, outside the map limits. So it's gonna look really odd if I attempt to bring in a connection from out here, although it might be possible as a tunnel. The reason I think we should go for this northeastern passage here is that I think we'll have some pretty cool views of this highway as you kind of enter down this valley here, and as you guys can see, the metro area really starts revealing as you snake your way down these mountains. So I think this is where we want to create our third connection. Anyways, I started rambling while I should actually be buying up some map tiles. So I'm gonna try and buy as few tiles as possible just to see what I can actually get away with. I do have 33 to buy, so 10 isn't really going to limit me, but I don't know, I like to have the tiles on hand just in case I get a wacky idea such as this one. Alright, so there's a pretty steep ridge here to cross this mountain, and I don't think it's feasible that we do terraforming to allow for like an elevated or a surface highway to cut through all of this. So we're gonna attempt to cut into the mountain with a tunnel, and just having a look at how that's actually going to look and seeing if that's something that's going to be feasible. We might as well just start in here to create the connection, and then we'll see if there's like a good spot to get the maybe we should go down a bit actually, just to make sure. We'll see if there's a good spot to bring out the highway. And it's probably just here on this here where the ridge really starts. Let's see, we can create something. And I want as long a tunnel entrance as possible, because that just seems to look a little better in game. So I'm trying to align like this, and that looks, I'm very, very happy with how that looks. Even though the shadows are completely out of whack when you do it like this. And then we'll bring this up to speed. Let's see, we shouldn't have it too long, I suppose. Let's see how this looks. And this actually looks pretty good. So we're going to snake the interstate down the valley here. We're gonna cross this river through a bridge, of course. We're gonna snake our way alongside the coastline, probably going to remove this national road. We'll move north of the Riverview incineration plant. Gonna have to cut through some of this farmland and probably remove some of it, as well as adjust this this forest industry here. And then we're gonna intersect with the established interchange here, which we're gonna have to redo this from the bottom up. But let's get cracking. right, it's been a while since I've done that much highway construction, but it's probably the best feature of City Skylines 2. The network tooling is such a joy to use, and I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like creating weird, complex stuff just for the sake of playing around with it. So that's what we've got, a sort of mangled budget cloverleaf here, which is probably too small. It's probably too dangerous and a little too wonky. But it's mine and I absolutely love it. And yeah, added a bit of extra complexity here because I needed proper access from the city to Eastport, which was a little hard to actually fix. So this is an overly complex mess, and I love it for being just that. I find that pretty realistic. Moving a bit further into this northeastern farmland corridor, I just love adding these small random on and off ramps throughout. I don't really focus on ensuring that there's access to and from all all directions everywhere. I like to just kind of sprinkle these ramps in. Same with this one, and then over here, this I don't know what this is. So if any one of you got a suggestion for what we should name this interchange, what kind of type it is, I would be very interested to hear that, because it's not pretty. Anyways, it's gotten sort of cloudy here in Riverview, and it's so joyful to see this in motion with all the traffic. Let's move our focus away from infrastructure building for just a moment and expand the city a bit more, because I think we're due for a little expansion to the city, or town rather, of Chestnut. We've got about 500 people living here, but I'm thinking that we're going to seize up some more of this forest area and do some residential expansions, maybe add a bit of offices as well. So let's see, I think it would be kind of interesting if we upgrade these alleys so that Crest Street continues for a longer stretch and then maybe turns right to the southwest here, because we're also going to need to supply this area with a school and maybe a few more services, and maybe we'll have a few additional commercial establishments out here. So let's try that out first and see if it makes sense. So we'll just be enable snapping, of course. We'll just be upgrading, bringing Crest Street all the way out here, and I think we're actually just gonna continue it all the way out to the National Road, and then we'll need to stretch it north. Oh wait, this is southwest. What am I saying? Here we'll make an interchange here, and just gonna give it a good long straight stretch here. We've got a bit of a slope, but this should be fine. Cool. I want to place the school first because it's one of the more important assets. But whoa, this is actually really slopey. Okay, that's interesting. So maybe I'm gonna fit the school in here then somewhere, because this seems to be a bit more flat. And the larger assets always have a few issues if they are placed on too slopey terrain. It always ends up looking a little wonky. So we'll go for a school, and I'll just check if it's necessary with a little upgrade. Not necessarily, but I think we're gonna do it anyways, just for the visual aspect. So we'll just do something like this. And then I'm going to frame this with a very basic road. Maybe even some additional parking. And then we can do some very, very simple paths, and that's about it for the school detailing. So it's very, very basic, but just enough to give it a bit of flair. There you go. I'm going to continue Laurel Street. Don't think I'm going to... We could actually make a crossing here. That might be pretty fitting now. Then it's a real expansion to Chestfield now. Chestnut, sorry. And as I said, I would like a few commercial establishments, maybe near a school, so we've sort of got like a second center. Just a few assets, few basic ones, it's probably fine. Maybe an additional parking lot, just to break it up a bit, something like this. And it's actually really slopey here. have to keep that in mind when I build additional roads. I'm going to map out suburban areas here in Chestnut. It's pretty basic stuff. Chestnut Elementary School. So we've added an additional suburban street layout, which I'm quite happy with. We've got a bit of a park landscape in here. You also saw me remove make a bunch of spaces in the zoning. This is to let a few more trees continue surviving the onslaught when this starts developing. Chestnut, I imagine at least one of the many draws to moving here. Or what draws people in basically is that it's quite a foresty small town. So that's something I wanna somewhat preserve. I've tried to do it when we built the initial town as well, and I think in some areas it was quite successful. In others less so. I also took the chance to build a public housing area up here. I'm not sure if this demand can actually sustain, 9 buildings, but I'm hopeful, because then we should get 9 identical buildings, which will look like a proper project, public housing project. Although maybe I should switch out 3 of these 3 to this low rent housing instead. Just kind of break up the design here. Anyways, I've done this entire expansion with the game paused, and I've kind of changed the district area of Chestnut to represent the new size of the town. So it's going to be very interesting to see how much growth we'll actually be seeing. Currently we've got 285 households housing, as I said, almost 500 people. So I'm gonna hit play and then we'll see what happens. While we wait for people to really move in and settle to the new parts of Chestnut, I want to add a crematorium, and I don't actually have this purchased yet, so I'm just gonna unlock it. Sorry, that's what I meant. Let's see, if we go to healthcare, we've got the crematorium here. Just enable some snapping, and we'll place it rather pretty centrally here in town, and then convert this all to a big park, I think. So we'll grab this lane here, this alley, and we'll just drag that over and then remove all the zoning. Create a bit of a park landscape here. I think the crematorium is a pretty nice asset. It's a good fit for a sort of a park. And we've even got an extension. Just gonna add that just to do something. Very basic park, but it does the job. And I've got a bit of a joker over here. I've tried to delete this 4 times now, and I just can't get the 3rd installment of this low-rent housing building. I'm really getting trolled here because everything else is completely identical. So I really think that sells this area as like a public housing project quite well. Let's have a look at our population figures. So pretty much doubled so far, which is nice, and about 80 households are completely unoccupied, so that's also going to you know, that's extra room for more people, of course. And if we check these, then yeah, most of the occupants currently are single, and that usually changes with time, so that we'll see more occupants or residents, sorry, than households. So this one's actually empty. Oh yikes. But hopefully Chestnut is on to some good growth now. The main pressing issue for Chestnut though is unreliable healthcare coverage, and I'm pretty sure it's because I'm basically just underfunding healthcare coverage in general. Yeah, I don't have all that much, so we've got some. I mean, this is primarily a zone for employment, so that's not as bad. But this northeastern corridor is really a bad service coverage, especially healthcare, so we're going to alleviate that. Come in here with a medical clinic, and I should probably unlock the hospital soon and build like a main hospital somewhere as well. But for now, we're just gonna build our clinic, and let's see, should we have it on Main Street? Something like this. And I think I'll just add an extension wing and a few paths, and then we're good to go. Going to ensure that the Chestnut Medical Clinic only covers these areas out here in the northeastern corridor, not just Chestnut, but also Valley Crest, Briarwood Gardens, Franklin Crossing. This is an office area, and Rivers End as well. And it should be able to sufficiently cover all this. Balance in all things, just as it's supposed to be. And the clouds are even clearing up. This is not a coincidence, guys. And it's all cloudy again. How does that even work? Anyways, on to the next project, the one that might be a bit more controversial. I promised you guys a bit of a revamp of this area here. And one plan I have is to implement a small 2-lane highway or a national road, whatever you want to call it, to follow the waterfront here, because currently we've got a very pretty quiet, almost secluded waterfront down here for these guys, and it's so nice that I have to destroy it, because we've been utilizing our waterfront way too well for this to be a realistic North American city. So yeah, we'll need some more pavement and some more trucks and cars, of course. But I'm also hopeful that it's going to actually serve some purposes, because currently I'm seeing a lot of traffic that is destined, for the Port of Riverview industrial traffic, or the southern parts of the region actually enter through this main highway bridge leading into the city. And I'm of course hopeful that if we implement some form of interchange here and a highway segment stretching north here and connecting to the port, and south and enabling some access in some of these southern neighborhoods, then we're gonna distribute traffic a little more evenly. Now, of course, make sure to save the game at this point, because there's a good chance I'm gonna mess something up, so yeah, just gonna have to jump straight into it. time for a little tour of everything we've built. And what a mess this has become. A lovable mess. It was kind of tricky to get this off-ramp in place as well, because we've got several layers in play here, but it was highly necessary, and quite a few people actually use it because it allows for access into the city down here in this southern part of downtown. And of course there was a ton of traffic here, which you probably saw during the time lapse, so I opted for upgrading this to actual roads and then just densifying this area a bit with some more row housing. Also built another public housing project, this time experimenting with two very basic towers and a bit of basic landscaping as well, and they surely stick out. But we have to imagine that with the demand after the Second World War, the Riverview Housing Authority was desperate to build projects like this to provide some affordable housing to lots of people that had a hard time getting into the housing market. In the northern part of downtown, of course, the new highway snakes into the Port of Riverview area, and it is also seeing some decent use. Also just choose to upgrade this to a 6-lane road, giving us a bit of a bridge as well, which I also really love as an addition. And of course, I'm never gonna be tired of just looking at all the activity in my weird butchered cloverleaf, but I quite like it. And I think that concludes this episode. Very happy overall with the super messy additions we've made to our Metropolitan area here. All the highway infrastructure is really starting to be visible from space as well. And I think that's a pretty good sign when we're trying to achieve some sort of North American realism. So thank you so much for tuning in, and all the support, all the comments, the likes, just everything. Thank you guys so much. I feel so privileged to be a part of this, and I can't wait to dig into the next video. And I hope to see you there as well. So have a nice day, evening, whatever it is where you're from, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.